Hello everybody, Lord Almighty here. Today is Tuesday, April 16th, 2019, and I'm out here at one of my favorite local ponds because not only is it a beautiful evening for fishing, but I am also field testing a prototype lure that I have been tinkering with for about a year now. And here's one of them right here. It's essentially a micro chatterbait, and I'm going to be throwing this around in this pond that is chock full of bass and large bluegill, and I am going to see if this new lure design works on these fish. Is that a fish? Yeah, that's a fish, all right. I felt it hit, but then the line went slack. I guess he was swimming towards me. There we go, little largemouth. On the little tiny chatterbait that I essentially had to assemble from scratch. Hopefully the first of many. There's a fish. Oh, he came off. I felt like it could have been a decent fish. Fouled up. That's the first time that's happened. It's good that it doesn't do that very often, though. Well, guys, I think I'm going to change things up a little bit. I had been using this little crappie-sized straight tail shad bait. And I got a couple of hits, but I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try a little swim bait, and I'm going to see if that works any better. In the limited testing I've done with this lure before, the swim bait actually seems to be a pretty good choice to pair with it. Ooh, that was a hit. That was a hit for sure. How did he not hook up? Felt like he sucked the whole thing in. Okay, so one thing I am noticing right off the bat after having switched over to the swim bait is the bait's actually running better. When I was using that straight tail shad, the bait would roll over if I'd reeled it in too fast. But with this, it's always staying level and running true. And I'm wondering if there's drag created by the tail of the swim bait that helps it stay upright. Maybe the swim bait's just the ideal trailer to put on this thing. I don't know. Definitely going to need some more experimentation. Ah, there's a little bass that came up and tried to eat this. It was a little tiny guy. I don't care how small a chatterbait you're using, I don't think you're going to hook that one. Ah. Oh. Well, I guess you can catch micro bass on the micro chatterbait. This might even be smaller than that other one that hit. You want to talk about a squeaker? It's about as small as you're going to get on hook and line. Oh, that was a hard hit. How did he not hook up? There's a fish. Another little largemouth. Alright, he's bigger than that last one, almost by default, but still not very big. But that's okay, I'm not going for size tonight. If I was going for size, I'd be throwing around a full-size chatterbait. There's a fish. Kind of a light hit. Another tiny largemouth. Easy. Well, the little swim bait appears to be getting more hits than that straight tail minnow was. So that's one good piece of information to have going forward. Oh, it came off. That was another hit. I'm getting good hits on this, but the hookup ratio is not the best. It's maybe about 50% at this point. But I think that's more a function of the jig head that I've got on this thing. I got like real cheap jig heads, and the hooks might not be really sharp. Oh, there's one. Oh, and he came off, see? So maybe I should start looking around for better quality jig heads with sharper hooks. That might help things a little bit. But the less than stellar hookup ratio aside, I am very encouraged by what I'm seeing from this lure this evening. And the main reason is the vast majority of the hits that I've received have been in the middle of the cast. You know, it hasn't been as soon as it hits the water because I drop it on the fish's head, and it's not when I'm lifting the bait out of the water because a fish sees it and has to hurry up or else it'll get away. It's the action of the bait that is bringing these fish in and causing them to bite. And the reason why I wanted to use this particular pond for a test is because the water is very, very clear. So these fish are getting a very good look at whatever is coming by. So they're definitely liking what they're seeing out of the bait. And as a result, I'm liking what I'm seeing too. So some of you guys might be a little curious as to the story behind this bait and why I've decided to invest at least a little bit of time and money into testing them out. Well, the chatterbait is a bait that I fell in love with almost immediately. I love the action, I love the vibration, I love how easy it is to use, and I especially love that it catches fish. But I found that in the small, shallow ponds that I normally fish, sometimes a full-size chatterbait is really a little bit too much. You need to go with something smaller. And there weren't many like light-sized options for chatterbaits. And the ones that I did find, I wasn't a huge fan of them. I just didn't like them. So, necessity being the mother of invention, I decided to look for chatterbait components, and I bought them, and I started putting some of these lures together. And it used to be that I would just put them together from like spare parts that I had lying around. But this time I actually bought, you know, a decent supply of these components, and I was able to make several of these little prototypes. So definitely look for these to show up on the channel quite a bit, because so far I think I got a winner on my hands. Oh, there's one. Another little tiny one. But it's a bass. And he would have had a real hard time fitting a full-size chatterbait in his mouth. He might have been able to do it because they're bass. They can eat anything. But would have been tough. Okay, well, I'm going to change things up yet again. In addition to some plain jig heads, I also took those little chatterbait blades and I put them in front of marabou jigs. So I'm going to see if the underwater action of marabou combined with the little chatterbait blade vibrations can also catch fish. There's a fish. Another small bass. Oh, and off he comes. Let me help you. Get back in there. There you go. Came with a little marabou. Oh, that was a hit. I got rocked. Man, I don't know if the bite's just subtle tonight or... Man, I have missed a lot of fish. There's a fish. Another little largie. Boy, they hit it hard. They shrink in the water. They hit it and they feel like they're 2 or 3 pounds. And then you bring them in and they shrank on you. There's a fish. Hit that like a ton. Whew. Could be the biggest one of the night. I know that's not saying much, but an upgrade's an upgrade. Yeah. Well, guys, I think that is going to do it for my evening, but I am very, very encouraged by what I have seen this evening out of this little bait. I know a handful of small bass may not seem very impressive, but I mean, the potential is there. It catches fish, and that's what I set out to prove tonight. And you know what? This thing, in the short time I've been experimenting with it, it works on more than just bass. Since I started using it, I've caught trout on it, I've caught shad on it, I've caught all manner of panfish on it. I even caught a catfish on one. So I'm really excited. I think this is the start of something very special. If nothing else, it just means I'm going to catch a lot more fish, and in the end, that's more than enough for me. So if tonight felt like kind of a sales pitch, I'm sorry. I'm just really excited. But yeah, we'll continue to test it. It's far from a finished product, and we will see what the future holds. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I will see you on the next adventure.